Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is a knitting wrap-up video and I haven't done one of these for quite a few months. I think it was back in May that I did my last proper roundup. So yeah, I've got quite a bit to share with you. And I've decided to actually make two videos because if I took my knitting and my spinning for the last few months and shared it with you, it would make for one really long video. So I've decided to split them in two, and today I'll be concentrating on the knitting side of things, and there'll be another video for those of you who are interested in the spinning. Hopefully that will be coming up here next on the channel, fingers crossed, although who knows, because time is a funny thing and I have good intentions of doing one thing in a particular week and then time gets away with me, so we'll see. It'll be here at some point. I've got plenty of things to show you, and so I think we're just going to get stuck in. I'm kind of doing it in order but not really. So in preparation for this video I went through and watched my June, July and August making plans videos, and then any projects that I did progress on I've pulled out and I'm going to flash them at the camera and share with the progress or the finished objects with you. For June there were 4 projects that I was meant to work on in the month of June. My Latvian mitts, my Astra vest, and also I pulled the prompt to try something new. And for the Latvian mitts I added a couple of rows, nothing really worth sharing with you. For the try something new and the Astra vest, those projects didn't get picked up at all. I had a bit of an up and down mental health month in June and just didn't really make too much progress on the projects that I had on my list. However, one thing did get finished, and that was the test knit that I was doing for the lovely Sylvia Watts Cherry, who is with Cherries on Top 2 over on Instagram, and she has now released her Lynxfield sock pattern, and I was test knitting that for Sylvia, and I believe I did show that off in one of my previous videos as a work in progress. The socks are now finished, and I am ashamed to say that they're not in pristine condition because I have been wearing these and I've basically just pulled them out of the dirty wash pile. So yes, here I am again flashing my dirty socks for the internet to see. Not the first time, and it probably won't be the last time, but I have quite a small window of opportunity to record this video today, so I decided rather than wait and maybe not get this video done this week, I would just flash my dirty socks at you. So as I said, it's the Lynxfield sock pattern by the lovely Sylvia Watts Cherry, and it's a beautiful lace pattern, and I've got one sock here on the block. As you can see, it's really baggy because I've been wearing it. I knit mine from Opal Unicolor, so the solid colours, and this is the fluorescent green, I think. There's quite a few, oh no, the neon green, that's it. There's quite a few neon colours in that range, and this was such a fun colour to work with. I'm going to put that atrocious baggy sock down. I'm so sorry, Sylvia, I know you won't be watching this, but I'm so sorry not to be doing justice to your lovely socks. But I have put one of the socks sort of a bit skew whiff on the sock blocker just so you can see that beautiful lacy pattern. And these look like they might be quite complicated if you're not particularly a lace knitter. The beautiful diamond pattern sort of looks like it could be quite complicated, but actually once you get into the flow of it, it's quite easy to read because these sort of yarn over holes are going in a particular order and direction, so you can almost read your knitting if you are able to do that. I know it's easier for some than others, but it's really not as complicated as you think. It's a combination of sort of knit two togethers and slip knits and yarn overs, so if you can do that then you'll certainly be able to knit these socks. And yeah, they were just a joy to knit, and they really brought back my sock mojo because that had been missing in action for a lot of the beginning of this year. So yeah, I'm thankful to these socks for that. These and the pair that I test knit for Caroline as well really kick-started my sock knitting mojo again. So if you're looking for a fun sock pattern with a little bit more interest than just a vanilla sock, I can highly recommend the Lynxfield sock pattern. And I'll pop links to my Ravelry project pages below. If you're not a Ravelry user and you need help in finding any of these patterns, I could do my best to help you. Just drop me a comment below the video, but I'm sure if you search for Sylvia Watts Cherry and Lynxfield you'll be able to find these wherever they're published. let me just shame myself even more. I've obviously been wearing these outside with no shoes on because look, I've stepped in something. Honestly, those are definitely overdue for a wash. If you want to see some really pretty pictures, maybe I'll pop mine in here because I do have a couple of nice pictures that I took for Instagram. But if you are a user of Instagram, if you pop on over and find the hashtag for the Lynxfield socks, you'll find some beautiful versions that haven't just been pulled out of the wash basket. So while we're on the subject of socks, I also finished 2 pairs of socks in July. And July was our fabulous month of making here in the community. We held our Christmas in July make along, and if you've been following with the channel for a while, you might remember that I posted several videos in that month chatting about the projects that I was working on and also sharing some of the stuff that was happening in our community. And I found that to be such a fun month of making, and I really appreciated the community involvement in that and helping me to kickstart my making mojo again for real after a few funny mental health months. So I managed to finish 2 pairs of socks which will become gifts for Christmas, and the first are these pair, which will be for James's mum, my mother-in-law, and I knit these from a skein of yarn from a local-ish to me dyer, the Old Piggery, and I'd had this in my stash for quite some time, and it was actually a skein of yarn that I'd put in my basket of yarns that will self-destruct, and I'll put a link to the video chatting about those yarns up on the screen or down below somewhere. So I'm really happy to have knit this yarn out of my basket, and I used some contrast yarn for the heels, toes and cuffs, which was some leftover from another local dyer to me, the lovely by Miranda May, and I have some of Miranda's yarn in the Yarn and Yarn shop for anyone that might be interested. This one is the Purple Moon colour, and it provided a really nice contrast to the main colour for these socks. And James's mum has teeny tiny feet, so they really didn't take too long to knit at all. And I do have a pair of smaller sock blockers, but I can't for the life of me find them at the moment, so I don't have a way to show those off nicely, but it's really nice to have those done. The yarn out of my self-destructing yarn basket, and also something for the gift pile. And after I cast off those gift socks for James's mum, I was in the mood to cast on another pair straight away. So again, I revisited my self-destructing yarn basket and I pulled out another skein of yarn which I had intended to knit up as a Christmas gift for James's dad. You can't gift a pair of socks to mum and not dad. So I used this skein of Regia Perfect, which again is from Deep Stash, and I knit a pair of socks for James's dad. For James's mum, I should say, I just do a straightforward, simple, plain sock, vanilla sock if you like. For James's dad, I usually do a sock that has a ribbed leg and the top of the foot is ribbed as well, and I do a 3x1 rib, and that just helps James's dad a little because he has some medical issues which mean that sometimes his ankles and his legs swell up, so there's a little bit of wiggle room in these socks for when he needs them. Another pair of gift socks done. Again, they don't entirely fit properly on these blockers. James's dad's feet are slightly larger than mine, but I was really happy to get these finished as well, because 2 gift pairs done by more or less the end of July. I think these ones went into August, but to have those off the list is just a really nice feeling. I did make a slight change to my yarn, because if I share with you the ball band again for these socks, I don't know if you can see, I know it's not focusing on the label right now, but there is quite a large band of light colour in the middle of that sock. And in fact, there were 2 colours in the yarn that were very close together, this pale pink, and there was also a really sort of almost like a lilac-y mauve colour. And I started knitting that stripe into the first sock, and I really didn't like how it looked, because all of these have got quite good sort of dark contrast. I felt like from a distance that it looked like there was one really big sort of double thickness stripe, because the colours just weren't distinct enough from each other. So I decided to rip out the couple of rows that I'd knit and cut that piece of yarn out. And yes, it means a couple of extra ends to sew in, but I'm much happier with how this sock turned out as a result of that. So I'm pleased that I made that decision, and I will be happy to gift these in December when the time comes. Also in August, as part of our Christmas in July make-along, I was trying to make use of some of the advent calendars that I had received last December and for one reason or another had not managed to work on or use in that month. So I revisited a fabulous advent swap that I did with my lovely friend Lisa, and in that swap she gifted me a quantity of red merino fibre, and I have been itching to make some Santa gnomes for a little while. So this is kind of a two-for project, because I spun up the yarn and then I knit these 3 little gnomes from the Never Not Gnoming pattern by Sarah Shearer, and these were just a really fun little make. And it was so nice to use that quantity of fibre to get it spun up and to knit these little chaps. I shall probably be gifting these. I think I'll gift at least 2. I might keep one for myself, but I'd like to make a few more of these because I think they'll make adorable little gifts around Christmas time to add to swap packages and gifts for friends. And this red merino was just the perfect Christmas red. I don't have a ton of red fibre in my fibre stash, and the other reds that I do have aren't quite as perfect as this. So if you're watching, thank you so much, Lisa, for gifting me the perfect Christmas red. And yeah, it was just really fun to knit these little guys up. I used some other hand spun, again from that same advent swap, for the beards as well. I spun up some Ryland, I think it was. My memory of it is a little bit shaky because I did quite a lot of spinning that month, but I'm sure I shall clarify that when I actually do my spinning video, because I think I will chat about that spin too. Yeah, 3 little gnomes, yarn spun and all knit up during the month of July. And then finally, for my making in July, I also worked on what was the biggest project of the month, and that was to use up the mini skeins that I received in a lovely advent swap with a group of my fabulous friends. And we've done this swap for the last couple of years, and I think last year and the year before, we've done it for 3 years, I think so. I managed to use the mini skeins in the month of December, and I just didn't get round to it last December. So this was actually one of the main drivers for me wanting to do the Christmas in July make-along, was to inspire me to use up this advent calendar in particular. I had a hunt through my pattern library, and originally I was going to knit the Adventuresome Wrap, which is a pattern by Amber O'Brien, I believe, and I still might make that one in the future. But for that one, I think you needed your mini skeins and a contrast colour, and I decided that I wanted to just try and use the mini skeins by themselves if I could. And so I had a look in my pattern library and I found a pattern called Spelltas, which was kindly gifted to me by my lovely friend Caroline of the Colourful Creativity podcast. And Caroline has started podcasting again after a little bit of a hiatus, so hop on over to watch Caroline's channel. I'll pop a link to that below. And yeah, this turned out to be the perfect pattern, and it's a wrap rather than a shawl, and I used every last mini skein in the swap, and I think I also added a couple more into the mix as well, if I remember rightly, because there was a mix in the swap of minis. Some I think were just over 5 grams, some were up to 10 grams and over, and there were a couple that just weren't quite big enough to knit their sort of individual section of the spelltas. So I did add in a couple of extra bits, which was really fun. But I do have plenty of leftovers as well. If I show you my bag that I was keeping this project in the bottom of that bag, not doing a very good job of showing this off. There are still quite a few leftovers in there, so I'll have to find another fun project to add those into at some point. But for now, here is my spelltas. It's way too long to show off in just one shot. I think I started showing it from the other end. Bad podcasting, but here we go. this end section was actually one of the minis that I added in. This was a leftover from a skein of yarn that I bought on a lovely day trip to Bath, and I bought this one in a yarn story. And yeah, it was just such a lovely, fun project. And I have yet been able to take a picture of this to show it off in its full glory, because it's just so long. And the pattern has a suggestion that you can add some tassels to the corners with your leftover yarns, and I have done just that, and that was such a fun addition. I've not really added tassels to any of my projects before. I've made tassels as sort of like a standalone decoration, but it adds just a nice weight to the edge of this project, and it's a really good length to either have as a long scarf, or you can wrap it round a couple of times to give you some extra warmth around the neck. So you could definitely tuck this up and scrunch it under a coat as a nice sort of thick squishy cowl, or you can wear it as a sort of scarf or a wrap. So I had so much fun knitting this. My original intention was to knit one mini skein a day into this project, but I got so addicted to it, I'd finished the bulk of the knitting about halfway through the month. And then it sat languishing a little bit while I was faffing around making the tassels. So yeah, you may have seen this almost finished on one of the sort of Tour de Fleece Christmas in July videos that I popped up. But yeah, I'm happy to have this finished. I love the mix of the colours. I love the fact it's like getting a giant hug from some of my dearest friends, and I know that I'm going to be wearing this a lot once the weather cools down. It's still pretty warm here, so I can't even really wear it for a minute. It's making me too hot today. It's rainy here today, so the light's a little bit funny, but it's still warm. We're still in the low 20 degrees, which is, well, it's nice to have the end of summer hanging on for a little bit longer. Don't think I mentioned the designer of the spelltas pattern. It's a design by Samantha Troyer. And yeah, if you've got mini skeins or leftovers that you are wondering what to do with, if you've got an advent calendar that you haven't yet used, I can highly recommend that pattern. It was a real joy. It's the sort of comfort of garter stitch knitting with a little bit of shaping, and yeah, so it's great to do in front of the TV or when you're chatting with friends. And yeah, it was just a real nice cozy comfort knit exactly when I needed it. That brings us almost up to date. We've just got August left to go through, and I've got more works in progress than finished objects for August. So yeah, let's get on and share those with you. So for the dice roll game, so I went back to the dice roll game in August. I had a little break from that in July while we were doing Christmas in July. I rolled several projects, and I think I managed to, I did manage to work on them all, which is really nice. So the first roll was to work on something gifted. Yeah, the idea behind that prompt is just to pick a project or a pattern, something that someone has kindly gifted to me, and work on that. And so for that prompt, I decided to pull out my Misselthwaite Manor socks, which are a relatively recent cast on. The yarn I'm using for this gorgeous sock pattern is my own hand spun, and the original fibre for the handspun was gifted to me by my lovely friend Lou, and Lou also kindly gifted me the pattern collection that I have taken this sock pattern from, and it's a collection of socks inspired by The Secret Garden, which is my all-time favourite book. And so I decided that it would be really fun to combine the yarn that I'd spun up from the gifted fibre with a pair of socks from that sort of gifted pattern collection as well. So yeah, I've started on the first pattern from that collection. As I say, it's called Misselthwaite Manor, and I've actually finished the first sock. I just needed to cast it off, and I'm not sure why I stalled on it and didn't actually cast it off. Maybe I got to this point right at the end of the month, and to sort of stave off that second sock syndrome, when I get to the end of one sock, I do like to have the time to cast on the second sock straight away, so it's on the needles. It's kind of a seamless process. I don't like to cast off one sock and then just leave it languishing in the bag, because I feel like that would lead me down that second sock syndrome sort of path. So yeah, I'm not sure, maybe I just ran out of time at the end of the month to cast off and cast on. But anyway, I have really enjoyed this pattern, and I think it might become a new sort of go-to pattern for me because there's just enough interest to make it more fun than a plain vanilla sock, but it's not too complicated that you can't do it in front of the TV. And once you've got the sort of pattern chart memorized, which is really easy, it's just a combination of different knits and purls, then yeah, it's just an easy pattern to sort of do without thinking. I adjusted mine slightly, or I have adjusted mine slightly, because I'm using my handspun yarn, which is slightly on the thicker side for sock yarn. I would say this particular skein of my handspun is quite comparable if you've ever used Patton Square yarn, which I know is harder to get here in the UK, but for any of my US or Canadian viewers, if you've used Patton Square, you might know that it's a slightly thicker sock yarn, so thicker than your sort of typical Opal or West Yorkshire spinners, or the sort of beautiful indie dyed sock yarns. So I decided to adjust the sock slightly. I knit it toe up. For me, I usually knit a 64 stitch sock, and this I've knit a 60 stitch sock, and it was quite easy to adapt the pattern for that. I'm looking forward to getting back to this sock at some point soon. Not this month though, the dice did not have that fated for me. The next project that I worked on in August is one of my older works in progress, and it was really nice to revisit this. And it's the Ultra sweater, which is a pattern by Skein Deer Knits. And I believe when I showed this to you, I had knit the colourwork yoke, and I was getting ready to steek for the sleeves because it's a pattern that involves a little bit of steeking. And I was going great guns on this project at the beginning of the month, and then I stalled a little bit for various reasons, and I'll chat about those in a minute. So here is my Ultra. And yeah, as you can see, I have knit down some of the body, and I have also got 2 sleeves, and I knit the neckband as well. However, I have a few issues going on with this. So first off, I thought that I had been trying this on as I went for the sleeve fit, and I know I did, but we were away at James's parents' house. And so I obviously didn't, usually when I try something on for fit, I try it on, I sort of move it around so it's sitting roughly on my body where it will actually be. I stand in front of a mirror and just try and figure out the proportions. But I obviously didn't do that because I was very pleased with myself having knit both sleeves, and then I tried it on again and the sleeves are just way too long. So I need to rip these sleeves back, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second as well. The other issue that I had with this is it has a fold over neck. So the ribbing on this, as written in the pattern, is really quite a small ribbing detail, which actually looks quite nice in the pattern. But the pattern as written has you knit this number of row of ribbing, and then you bind it off by sort of folding this over and sort of binding it off together with a pickup stitch that you take from inside the sweater. And when I'd done that, there was like no stretch to the neck, and I could not get it on over my head. The neck gap is quite small, or at least I found for me, and I don't think I have a particularly large head. So my idea was, that's fine, I will just forget about the fold over sort of cast off. I will just cast off as normal and have a slightly bigger, thicker neckband. I mean, it's still tiny. So I did that, and the first cast off I did, again, was too tight, could not fit it over my head. So I ripped it out again and I bound off again with a looser cast off. And while it does fit, I can get my head in it now, it's really high up and it's feeling quite uncomfortable on my neck. So I think I'm going to have to faff around and take out a few rows. Obviously, because I decided to omit the fold over, I've now got a rib which is essentially double what the pattern as written is showing. So between the problem with the neck and the problem with the sleeves, this went into the naughty corner for the second half of August. Because I want to, I've only got I think about a skein of my main colour yarn left. I'm using the nettle yarn from Onion Yarns, and I want to make this as long as I can. It's a nice oversized sweater. I deliberately made it quite oversized because I'm looking to replace a particular sort of commercially bought acrylic sweater that I've got in my wardrobe that I've had for probably 20 years. It's pretty thin and abysmal, really, but I like it for the transitional times of the year. So sort of summer into autumn and winter into spring, because it's quite a nice cover up. You know, sometimes you're not cold, but you need something on your arms just to give you that extra teeny little bit of warmth. And my sweater, the sweater that I have in my wardrobe, sort of performs that function, and I want this hand knit sweater to replace that. So yeah, I want to try and make this as long as possible. Right, let's just pop this on. Oh, it looks like the cat's been scratching this. Look, I've got a, I don't know if you can see that. Have to sort that out. If I pop that back on my shoulders where it should be, hopefully you can see this is cutting up on my neck really high. I'm not sure how well that comes across, but believe me, I can feel that there, and I don't like that feeling. I like a little bit extra space, like only just, you know, if it was hanging down there I'd be fine with it, but when it's sat back on the shoulders as it should be, it's cutting right up there, which I don't like. And then let's have a look at these sleeves. So I'm going to stand up so you can't really see me, but you'll be able to see my sleeves. As you can see, they're coming right down, and actually when I've got this on properly and not just shoved on for the camera, there it's actually covering the end of my fingers. And because this is oversized but with quite a fitted sleeve, like usually I would think, oh well, never mind, I'll just roll the sleeve up, or I'll just sort of bring it up, you know, bunch it up. But I hate how that looks because of just the style of these sleeves. You get this like loads of extra fabric just hanging out on the arm, and I just don't like that at all. Even when I've got it down by my wrists, it sort of covers the ribbing, and I just don't like it. So I can't fudge it this time. I can't just let it be. I'm going to have to take these sleeves out and rip out a good couple of inches and put the ribbon back on. And of course, because I knit both sleeves to the same, and as I say, I followed the sort of pattern as written without trying it on properly, so it's kind of my own fault for not making the modifications that I needed for my body. But yeah, I've got some work to do. I've got a really oversized t-shirt on today, and you can see this is even more oversized than the t-shirt. So ultimately, if I can sort out this, the sleeves won't take much sorting out, but if I can sort out this neckband issue, I think I'm going to be really happy with the finished sweater. And I don't think I mentioned it's my hand spun I'm using for the contrast. So yeah, I made quite some progress on the Otra because it, you know, it's a 4-ply fingering weight sweater in my size and oversized for my size, so it's quite a bit of knitting. I shouldn't have worn my hair down because everything's getting stuck in it, but my fabulous little moosey marker shows where the sweater was when I last showed it to you. So I had knit the yoke and I had got to sort of the point where you cut in for the sleeve steek. So yeah, I've knit a good way down the body, and also 2 very long sleeves which represents quite a lot of knitting time, but now I'm going to have to do some adjustments to that, and I would like to get back to that sooner rather than later, and I'm more readily willing to do that now that I've had a couple of weeks break from that, because I was really miffed with it because I thought I'd made really good progress, and then, you know, you get to that point where you've cast off the sleeves, you've cast off the neckbands, and you think, yay, I've just got to knit down the body, and no, you've got to go back in and make those adjustments. It's just frustrating. Knitters' problems, eh? And then I did manage to finish one project in August, and you may have already seen the vlog for this project. It's one of my 12 cast on projects, and I finished a pair of vanilla socks from some beautiful Patton Square yarn, which was a kind gift from the lovely Tammy of the Yarning at the Homestead podcast. And I love working with this Patton Square yarn, and it's just so hard to get hold of here in the UK, but I'm very grateful that I have some friends over the other side of the pond that have kindly sent skeins my way. I've had a couple gifted, and I had someone who was happy to buy some skeins for me and send them, so I've still got a little bit of Patton Square in my stash to play with. But the colourway on this particular these particular balls of yarn is just perfect. I absolutely adored every stitch of these, and yeah, as I say, there's a vlog which charts my progress of knitting these socks, and I knit them in all sorts of fun places. So if you haven't already watched that, I'll pop a link up on the screen if you care to go back and watch it. This is Patton Square in the Burnt Sierra Stripes, I think it's called, and I used a bright orange contrast for the toe, and the mini skein was a kind gift from Anne of the No Excuses Knitting podcast. Again, I shall link that below. So in my August making plans video, the final prompt that was rolled, or at least one of the prompts that was rolled, was to start something new, which was actually the last thing that I wanted to do. I really wanted to try and make some progress on some of my existing whips. We're fast barreling towards the end of this year, which will mean we're soon be gearing up for the next round of 12 cast-ons, and I've only finished 2 of last year's 12. So yeah, but anyway, the dice want what the dice want. It's part of the fun of introducing that element of chance to help me choose my projects, and in the end I went a bit OTT, and I didn't just cast on 1 new project, I cast on 3 new projects. Okay, hear me out, yeah. Here come the excuses. I am full of them. I'm not like Anne of the No Excuses Knitting podcast. I am the full of excuses knitting podcast. So I am, this month in September, I am concentrating on a test knit sweater. I'm doing another test knit for the lovely Sylvia Watts Cherry, and so I needed to get that onto the needles, and I was able to cast that on in August. And because I am deep into the throes of that test knit, I forgot to bring the project bag up with me. But it's a lovely intarsia sweater. It's so much fun, bright colours, and to me it screams kind of like late 80s, early 90s nostalgia. So I shall pop a picture of my sweater in progress. I popped a picture up on Instagram a few days ago showing my progress on the back of the sweater. I have since finished the back of the sweater, but that's the photo I've got, and it'll give you a little glimpse of that test knit. The pattern is called Let the Good Times Roll, and if you want details on when that's going to be released, I think it's going to be released sometime this month, so I need to get a bit of a wriggle on to try and get mine finished. But yeah, hop on over to Sylvia's Ravelry or her Instagram for details of when that pattern's going to be released, and also she's got a little reel up, I think, a little video and a couple of pictures of her finished version of that sweater. Also in August, my lovely younger sister reached out to me, and she is expecting a little baby boy in October. This will be her 4th boy, so good luck to her. And she sent me a little picture of a car themed baby blanket and asked if I could make one, and the picture that she sent me was a crochet blanket, and to be honest, it was not inspiring me, so I wanted to make her a blanket. So I went down a little pattern search rabbit hole on Ravelry, and I found the, I think it's called the Vroom Vroom blanket. I'll pop a note on the screen of what the pattern's actually called, and it's a pattern by Vicky Bird Designs, and it's another intarsia pattern. So the sweater I'm knitting for Sylvia is intarsia, so it's all about intarsia here in my house at the moment. But I have managed to finish the first strip of my blanket, so here it is. It's rolling over on itself because obviously it's a stocking stitch panel. So yeah, I've knit the first panel, and it basically comprises of 5 cars knit in the same design, but I have swapped out the colours, and I need to knit 4 more of these, and then mattress stitch them together and knit a border. So I have warned my sister that it's very unlikely that this will be ready for when baby comes in October, but I'm definitely going to try and get it done for Christmas at the latest. So yeah, she'll have to hold me to that. And I'm using a mixture of Sirdar, sorry, I'm showing you the back of the there, which is not particularly neat because there are bits, this is a lovely pattern, but there are bits down here where the wheels are, where you've got so many different little bits of yarn and that means so many different ends to weave in, and that's not my favourite job, and I'm not the neatest at doing that. So actually we're going on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm actually thinking about getting a piece of sort of fleecy material or something nice and soft to sew over as a backing, which means that, I mean, my the back of my project is not the worst, but it's not the best either. And yeah, so I think it might be nice just to get another piece of fabric to sew behind so that, you know, the worst of that gets hidden. We'll see what I have time for. But yeah, yarn wise, I am using Sirdar Snuggly for the most part, because I have that in my sort of room of stock that I'm used to have in the Yarn and Yarns physical shop, that I'm sort of gradually destashing. Yeah, I just picked out a bunch of colours that I thought worked quite nicely together. The only yarn in here that is not Sirdar Snuggly is the orange. Of course I had to add a row of orange cars into the blanket, as you know, it's a gift from me. And that is a ball of Debbie Bliss Baby Cash Merino, which actually my lovely friend Sian gifted me 3 balls of that last year, when she was having a little bit of sort out of her stash, and she said, I've got these, they're your colour, do you want them? So yeah, I very gratefully took those off of her hands, and I've added the first one into the blanket. And I promised my brother, here we go off on another tangent, that I'd make my niece a pumpkin hat, which I need to get on top of, so I need to get that cast on soon. So I might use the other balls of that orange yarn, that Debbie Bliss yarn, to make perhaps a pumpkin hat for the new baby and also for my niece. So yeah, that will get cast on at some point, and hopefully they won't take me long, because I need to do that sooner rather than later. And then finally, this is the final work in progress. I got thoroughly seduced by some new yarn that I have over in the Yarn and Yarns web shop. So I have recently started stocking Earth Yarns, their unique sock. Apologies if you can hear the sound of the rain in the background, it's really starting to come down now. But it's lovely, beautiful soft yarn, a lot of self-striping colours, and they have most recently done a limited edition run with the lovely Gigi of Gigi Made It. And if you follow Gigi on Instagram at all, you'll know that, like me, she is a lover of orange, and so she worked in collaboration with Earth to come up with this beautiful orange sock yarn. And as soon as I had it in stock, I had to cast on. I haven't made a ton of progress on this, but I just wanted to see. I knew from the pictures that it looked like it had a really nice sort of subtle striping to it, and I just wanted to cast on and knit it up and see it for myself. So I have what is in effect the leg of a sock. I've got to the point just about where I need to pop in my heel, and I think I'm going to do an afterthought heel as well, so as not to interrupt the striping pattern. But yeah, this was kind of just a bit of a frivolous fun cast on, and it's always nice to have a vanilla sock on the needle. It barely counts as a work in progress, does it? So yeah, that went onto the needles as well. So yeah, phew, that was a lot of knitting, wasn't it? But it was 3 months worth, because I have been very remiss and I haven't done one of these wrap-ups for a while, so yeah. I'm going to obviously sign off now, let you go. Thank you so much if you have stuck around until the end. If you have enjoyed the content here and you're not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much if you are already a subscriber. If you would like to support the channel and the work that I do here, then there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can send me a one-off coffee, and there's a link to my coffee page below. And most of the money that I get through coffee, I actually reinvest in terms of helping me to fund the costs of sending out the prizes that I offer for our make-alongs. And if you want to become a regular supporter, I also have a Patreon page, which again is linked below, and you can sign up to make a regular monthly contribution, and I post extra content over there on Patreon as well. At the moment, I committed to post at least 2 posts over there each month if I can. I'm not sure I did that in August, but we did have a video pretty much every day in July, so I hope my Patreons don't mind that I maybe took a little bit of a break in August. But yeah, there's a mixture of extra videos and some sort of written posts and blog posts over there. And also Patreons get early access to the videos that go up here on YouTube, and also ad-free access to videos that go up here on YouTube as well. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in supporting, then as I say, link is below. But of course, I know that that is not within everyone's means. It's tough out there at the moment. So I appreciate your support by being here, by watching, by liking the videos, by sharing that you're watching the videos, by maybe purchasing something from the Yarn and Yarns website. And next time you want to treat yourself to some yarn, if you remember Yarn and Yarns, that all helps to keep me going, to keep the lights on here. So yeah, I appreciate each and every one of you. I will be back soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye. Bye.